It's actually kind of hilarious how our brains prioritize problems.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we will completely obsess over the highly visible, minor things in our lives. A tiny scratch on the car door or, I don't know, a little chipped paint in the hallway.
Right, or making absolutely sure the front lawn is perfectly mowed before the weekend.
Exactly. But when it comes to the really complex things that we can't physically see, we fall right into the ultimate out of sight, out of mind trap.
Oh, 100%.
And for anyone listening right now who owns a home, there is perhaps no greater, more dangerous example of this trap than your home septic system.
It's literally buried underground.
Right. As long as it isn't actively flooding your bathroom and, ruining your day, you probably aren't spending a single second thinking about it.
No one wants to think about it.
So our mission for today's deep dive is to unpack this really fascinating collection of source material we've gathered. We're looking at a 6-month study tracking a group of homeowners who finally decided to break that cycle of neglect.
And they did this by using a preventative maintenance product called SEPTIFIX.
Yes.
And honestly, the part of this study that really hooked me wasn't the plumbing mechanics, though, I mean, those are interesting,
Sure.
but it's the human behavioral element. These sources give us a completely unfiltered look into the daily logs of these homeowners.
Just wild to read.
It really is. We're seeing their deep frustrations, their financial anxieties, and ultimately some genuinely surprising psychological shifts as they track the health of their home's most unforgiving system over half a year.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I think about an underground septic system like the foundation of a long-term relationship.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. You get busy with life, work, kids, whatever, so you start ignoring those small, silent communication breakdowns.
Yeah, the little red flags.
Exactly. And in the case of your plumbing, maybe it's a strange, lingering smell near the downstairs guest bathroom.
Or a drain that's suddenly gurgling at you when the washing machine runs.
Yes. You brush it off because, you're just stressed with work and, hey, the toilet's still flushed this morning, right? Why poke the bear?
Until the bear wakes up.
Exactly. Then, one day, you're suddenly facing a massive, incredibly expensive, catastrophic collapse. And you're just standing there in your yard wondering how it all went so wrong so fast.
And that analogy holds up incredibly well to the data, because the core premise we see in these homeowner accounts is that septic disasters rarely, if ever, start as actual disasters.
They don't just explode out of nowhere.
Right. They do not happen overnight. A collapsed leach field or a backed-up tank builds silently through years of microscopic neglect.
Wow.
Years. So what we're really exploring today is the anatomy of a mindset shift. Like, how do ordinary, overwhelmed people move from a purely reactive mindset, literally just waiting for the collapse, to a proactive, preventative one?
Well, I was reading through these user logs, and it's wild the level of denial going on before they hit that breaking point.
Oh, the rationalization's incredible.
It is. People essentially assume these tanks are magical self-cleaning boxes buried in the yard. Waste goes in and magic happens.
The magic box theory.
Right. People were noticing mysterious, spongy, wet patches appearing in their backyards. They were hearing these weird, rhythmic, gurgling sounds echoing out of the pipes after flushing.
And the slow drains.
Yeah.
Sinks draining just a fraction slower every month.
And the smells. Like unpleasant sulfuric odors hovering around the laundry room drains. But they just kept going to work, making dinner, and ignoring it.
Well, when a problem is intermittent, our brains are practically hardwired to rationalize it away.
What do you mean?
Like, if the sink smells on Tuesday but not on Wednesday, we convince ourselves the problem just resolved itself.
Oh, sure. Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. There's a quote in the sources from a homeowner in rural Texas that perfectly captures this collective delusion.
Oh, I remember this one.
Yeah, they said, "I thought septic systems only needed attention when something broke. I didn't realize the tank could slowly fill with waste buildup for years."
And because they believe in this magic box theory, when that sink does start draining slowly, their immediate reaction is completely counterproductive.
Oh, it's usually the worst thing they could possibly do.
Right. They go to the hardware store, buy the absolute harshest, toxic chemical drain cleaner they can find, and pour an entire gallon of it right down the pipes, thinking they're being proactive.
Which is a disaster.
But aren't they basically pouring napalm into the system and killing off the exact natural environment that keeps the tank functioning?
That is exactly what they're doing. What's fascinating here is the biological reality of what's actually happening underground and just how little most people understand it.
Okay, lay it out for us.
A septic system isn't a passive holding tank. It's a highly active, living, breathing ecosystem.
Right, it's alive.
Yes. Every single day, you have grease from the kitchen, sludge, toilet paper residue, soaps, and biological waste entering that environment.
That's a lot of stuff.
It is. And in a healthy system, millions of beneficial bacteria are frantically working to eat and break down all that solid waste, turning it into liquid that can safely drain away.
So they're like a microscopic workforce keeping the factory running.
Precisely. And we actually need to look at the type of workforce because that matters.
Okay.
Deep down in a neglected, compacted tank, you mostly have anaerobic bacteria.
Anaerobic, meaning they don't need oxygen.
Exactly. These are bacteria that don't need oxygen to survive. But the problem is, anaerobic bacteria are notoriously lazy and incredibly slow at eating waste.
Oh, okay. So they're basically slacking on the job.
Yes. And worse, as they slowly digest the sludge, they release sulfur-based gases.
So that's the rotten egg smell seeping up to the shower drain.
That's the one.
Okay, so when the homeowner pours bleach or harsh drain cleaners down the sink to fix a clog.
They're carpet bombing the entire ecosystem. They wipe out whatever workforce is left.
Oh, wow. So nothing is breaking down the waste anymore.
Exactly. Without those beneficial bacteria, the solid waste simply stops breaking down. The toilet paper doesn't dissolve. The grease hardens,
Leaks.
and the tank physically fills up with solid sludge until it literally has nowhere to go but backward up into the house or bursting out into the yard.
Which brings us to the absolute panic that drove these people to finally take action.
The breaking point.
Right. I mean, they didn't wake up on a Saturday morning and say, you know what, I'd really love to optimize my home's bacterial ecosystem today.
No, nobody does that.
No. They were driven by pure, unadulterated fear. We're talking about homeowners who had finally reached the point of calling a professional plumber and being handed repair quotes that are just jaw-dropping.
Really shocking numbers.
Yeah, some were looking at a few $100s for emergency pumping, but others were facing thousands of dollars to dig up and replace entire drain fields.
Which is a nightmare.
Totally. That financial shock, the threat of heavy machinery tearing up their manicured lawn, is what finally shattered the out-of-sight, out-of-mind spell.
Well, fear of a massive 5-figure repair bill is a highly effective motivator.
I would say so.
But the challenge with fear is that if the proposed solution is too complex, it usually just triggers decision paralysis.
Oh, that makes sense. Like you're too overwhelmed to do anything.
Exactly. What's interesting in the source material is how these homeowners searched for an escape hatch. They were desperately looking for a maintenance solution they could manage before those severe, sluggish pipe problems finalized into a complete system failure.
And that's where this specific group turned to SEPTIFIX.
Right.
Now, for anyone wondering what exactly this product is, the sources describe it as a small, flushable tablet. You use it just once a month.
Very straightforward.
Yeah, you drop it in your toilet, flush it, and once it hits the septic tank, it reacts and releases a massive dose of both oxygen and beneficial bacteria.
And the goal there is to aggressively break down all that accumulated sludge naturally.
There was one user quote that really stuck out to me here. They said, "I didn't want another complicated system to maintain. Flushing one tablet a month sounded manageable."
That word manageable is the entire key to behavioral change.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. The mechanism behind it is a completely different paradigm than how we usually treat home repairs.
How so?
It's like taking a daily probiotic combined with a deep breath of fresh oxygen, but for your house's digestive tract.
That is a brilliant way to look at it.
Right. It's a biological intervention, not a mechanical one. You aren't going in there with a wrench, a heavy steel snake, or toxic acid. You're literally introducing life back into the system to let nature do the heavy lifting.
And that biological simplicity bypasses the cognitive load that prevents people from maintaining their homes.
That's a cognitive load.
Yeah, people crave simplicity because modern life already demands too much bandwidth. When you tell a homeowner they need to manually measure out powders, handle harsh chemicals, wear gloves, or coordinate with specialized contractors every few months.
It feels like a second job.
Exactly. So it gets put off. By condensing the entire preventative maintenance routine into a natural, flushable monthly habit that takes 3 seconds, you completely remove the friction.
Which changes everything.
Right. For a busy family, that like a friction is the sole difference between actually doing the maintenance and ignoring it until the front lawn turns into a swamp.
Okay, let's dig into the actual oxygen part of this tablet.
Yeah.
Because based on what you said earlier about the slow, smelly anaerobic bacteria, the oxygen seems to be the secret weapon here.
It's the critical differentiator. Remember, the bacteria that live deep in the oxygen-starved sludge are slow and produce terrible odors.
Right, the lazy workers.
Exactly. But when you introduce a massive burst of oxygen into that environment, you create ideal conditions for aerobic bacteria.
And aerobic bacteria thrive in oxygen.
Yes. They are highly aggressive, incredibly efficient, and they multiply rapidly. They eat through organic waste and toilet paper exponentially faster than the anaerobic ones.
Wow.
And crucially, they do it without releasing those foul, sulfurous gases.
Okay, so you're basically swapping out the lazy, smelly workforce for a highly caffeinated, highly efficient workforce.
That's a perfect way to put it.
I love that. So we have this group of homeowners. They're terrified of a massive plumbing bill. They start flushing this bacteria and oxygen tablet once a month, and the study tracks them for half a year.
Right.
But reading through the timeline, the results were not at all what I expected, based on how products are usually marketed to us today.
Yeah, there were no dramatic overnight transformations where the pipes magically sparkled the next day.
No. And we live in an era of pure instant gratification.
We really do.
If an app takes 4 seconds to load, we force quit it. If an online order takes more than 2 days to arrive, we feel personally wronged.
It's so true.
So I was initially so confused as to why these homeowners were entirely satisfied, even thrilled, with a product that took weeks, sometimes months, to show major results.
Well, that's because their understanding of the problem fundamentally shifted.
In what way?
When you plunge a toilet to remove a physical blockage, you expect instant flow. But these homeowners realized they were doing something much larger. They were rebuilding an entirely collapsed ecosystem.
Ah, I see.
If you plant a garden, you don't expect tomatoes the next morning.
That's a great point.
Because they understood the mechanism, that they were waiting for a bacterial colony to multiply and slowly eat through years of hardened sludge, the gradual timeline made logical sense to them.
And the sources tracked 2 main physical improvements as that ecosystem rebuilt itself. First was the complete reduction of those awful odors.
Which is a huge relief.
Totally. There was this vivid anecdote about a family down in Florida. They had this utility sink in their laundry room, and the smell around it would come and go every single week.
Just a constant nuisance.
Yeah, it was just an accepted fact of life for them. They'd light candles when guests came over, always harboring this low-level anxiety, secretly wondering, does my entire house smell like a sewer right now?
That is so stressful.
But after using this product for about a month, they had this sudden realization that they hadn't smelled it in days.
Wow.
Imagine living with that subtle, continuous stress all the time, and then having it just quietly evaporate.
The psychological weight of home embarrassment is very real. And the second major physical improvement noted in the logs was the drain flow itself.
Right?
Sinks that used to hold standing water began draining smoothly. Toilets flushed with a strong, clean pull rather than a sluggish swirl. The ominous pipe gurgling faded away.
But we should probably clarify something here.
Oh, absolutely. It is critical to clarify what the sources state. A bacterial tablet cannot fix a physically broken PVC pipe or a leach field that has been crushed by a heavy truck.
Right, it doesn't repair cracked plastic or tree roots growing through the line.
Exactly. But for the vast majority of these systems, the sluggish performance wasn't a broken pipe. It was simply a massive biological backlog.
Just years of buildup.
Yeah. There was one specific log from a homeowner whose shower had been draining slowly for months. They had manually snaked the pipes, poured chemicals down it, and nothing worked.
Because the snake just punches a tiny hole in the sludge, right?
Exactly. It wasn't until a few months of regular oxygenated bacterial treatment that the water flow finally returned to normal. The bacteria had to slowly eat away the organic blockage that the mechanical snake couldn't reach.
And seeing that slow, steady progress actually built a much deeper trust, didn't it?
Oh, without a doubt.
They realized they were actually healing the foundation of the system at the source, not just slapping a chemical Band-Aid on a symptom for a few days.
Which transitions perfectly into what the study authors called the biggest surprise of the entire 6-month tracking period.
Yes. We've talked about the physical plumbing, the smells, the draining, but the greatest benefit the homeowners reported in their final surveys wasn't physical at all.
No, it was entirely psychological.
The transition from chronic anxiety to active confidence.
That's the one.
The source paints this really vivid before and after picture of their mental states. Before, these people were living with constant low-grade dread over backups, flooding, and bankruptcy-inducing repair bills.
Just waiting for the shoe to drop.
Exactly. They had totally irregular reactive maintenance habits. But after 6 months, The anxiety was replaced by a profound sense of control.
That is so powerful.
One user wrote, "I finally felt like I was doing something preventative instead of just holding my breath and waiting for disaster."
That word preventative is the turning point of the whole study. Septic systems inherently create stress because repairs are completely unpredictable.
And extraordinarily expensive, as we noted.
Right. Moving from a state of waiting for disaster to feeling proactive and in control of your home's health, that is a massive release of cognitive burden.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Because the source notes something really intriguing towards the very end of the study.
Yeah, this part is fascinating.
It points out that the homeowners who had the absolute best, most successful long-term results didn't just drop a tablet in the toilet once a month and call it a day.
No, they went further.
They actually started making holistic lifestyle changes. They stopped flushing those supposedly flushable wet wipes.
Which are terrible for systems, by the way.
Right. They started meticulously wiping grease into the trash instead of washing it down the kitchen sink. They cut way back on their use of bleach, and they even started conserving water to avoid flooding the tank.
Yeah.
So my question is, did the tablet actually do all the heavy lifting? Or was the tablet just a gateway habit that tricked them into finally treating their plumbing with respect?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of human behavior, you've hit on the most important insight of the whole study.
Really?
Yes, it is a synergistic loop, creating that incredibly simple new monthly habit of using SEPTIFIX-generated top-of-mind awareness.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Think about how we operate in other areas. If you buy a really expensive, high-quality pair of running shoes, you're suddenly more likely to eat a healthy breakfast.
Oh, because your identity has slightly shifted to someone who cares about their fitness.
Exactly. The same applies here. You aren't going to consciously drop a beneficial bacteria tablet into your system to carefully cultivate an ecosystem and then turn around the next morning and pour a gallon of bleach down the shower drain.
You'd be actively, intentionally destroying the exact thing you just paid money to build. It creates this cognitive dissonance.
Exactly. The product fostered smarter overall homeownership because it fundamentally educated them on how the system works.
It made the invisible visible.
Yes. Once they visualized that their plumbing relies on a delicate living bacterial balance, their daily behavior naturally shifted to protect that balance. They adopted a much more natural, holistic maintenance approach simply because they finally understood the rules of the game.
It makes total sense. Once you know something is alive down there, well, biologically active anyway, you treat it differently.
Definitely.
It's no longer a magic trash can, it's a living stomach.
That's a great analogy.
As we wrap up this deep dive, the core lessons from these daily homeowner logs are incredibly clear. The most repeated theme, the biggest regret across the board from almost every participant, was simply waiting too long to start maintaining the system.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Remember that homeowner who admitted they ignored slow drainage for almost 2 years because the toilet still technically flushed?
Yeah, that was hard to read.
They waited until the issue became serious enough to require expensive professional servicing before they finally woke up. The undeniable takeaway from every source we looked at today is that preventative care is cheaper, it is infinitely easier, and it is dramatically less stressful than navigating emergency repairs.
Absolutely. And for you listening, it is well worth internalizing the reality that true disasters do not happen suddenly. They build quietly. They grow in the dark through ignored warnings, rationalized symptoms, and tiny compounded moments of daily neglect. If you have a hidden complex system in your life, waiting for it to finally break is always going to be the most expensive and painful way to manage it.
Absolutely. And that leaves us with a final thought to ponder long after this deep dive ends.
Let's hear it.
We've just spent the last chunk of time exploring how a home relies on this hidden, living biological ecosystem, an environment that requires gentle, consistent feeding and support rather than harsh, aggressive chemical fixing.
Right.
It really makes you wonder, what other invisible systems in our lives are we neglecting right now?
It's a good question.
Whether it's our physical health and gut microbiome, the foundation of our close relationships, or even just our own mental well-being, are we slowly poisoning those systems with harsh, aggressive, quick fixes, when what they really need is a simple, consistent, natural habit to truly thrive? Something to think about.